Hello everyone, I'm about to show you how to create this shiny moving button with glitters, multicolor over effects, and micro interactions. So let's get into it. Okay, so this is the component I created for to make this button look the way it is. Now we are going to start step by step from the scratch in creating all of these components. So if you look at my screen, you can see that we have the glitters as the first component. We have the moving lines, which is going to show, the interactions, the moving stroke, and also we have the button component. So first is for us to create, these glitters, right? So what I'm going to do is let me just duplicate this here so that we can use this as a guide, so I don't make any mistake, because one thing we need to know is we need to pay attention to the every detail while creating these components. So let's get into it. So the first thing we want to do is let's bring in a frame, and the frame, let's make sure the size is 24 by 24. And the next thing we want to do is to delete this fill, right? So another thing is I always like to name every object, every frame that I use. So I'm going to rename this. Let me just name it glitters for now. All right, so now the next thing we want to do is to bring in our ellipse, and let me just put it inside the frame. As you can see, it's inside the frame. So now I'm going to just rename this to ellipse, right? And the next thing I want to do is I'll make sure the size is 1 by 1. Okay, so now I also make sure the color is white. F. All right, so what I want to do is this, right? You can see we have two types of we have two types of these glitters here. We have the one that the ellipse is outside, one is outside, and we have the second one that everything is inside. So we just want to like replicate this. So it might not be the same way I place this one here, but would get the same feel, right? So now let's just make sure we duplicate like 6, or you can increase it to like 7. So just make sure you duplicate around it. Let me just like bring in a stroke so I know where I'm actually placing this, right? Okay, so let me just place this here. Let me place this here. Let me duplicate another one. So if you want to duplicate, just hold on to your option key and click on this and move around, right? Just duplicate. However, let me bring it here so that I make sure that I model it the same way it is here. All right. So I duplicate this. I bring this out here. I put this here. I put this here. I duplicate this here. I also put this here, and I put this here. So I think this is giving something like this. Let me just drag this here a bit here, yeah, and also yeah. Okay, so I think it's good this way, right? So now what I want to do is to just take out this stroke, because we don't need it. I'm just using it as a guide, so I can know where to place it, right? So the next thing I want to do now is to make sure I select at least one or two, right? Two of these. I just change the opacity of the fill. I change the opacity to 80, right? Yeah, I change the opacity of the fill to 80. So okay, let me just model the same way I did here. Okay, this one is 80, this two, I change the fill, not the pass through, the fill to 80. Then I change the rest to 40. 40. All right, so okay, 40. Right, so these two are 80 opacity, while all these four are 40. So now we have, we have created this, successfully created this. So now the next thing, oh, you can see when I drag this, this guy didn't move. So you need to be careful while you are, bringing one of this guy out here. So let me just carefully, put this at the edge and, use my arrow key to bring it out. And you just click on this clip icon so that, it can show outside. All right, we have this. Now, the next thing we want to do is this other guy. You can see there is one guy here that is not visible. But before we do that, we also, if you check in this inside this component, you would see that there is another big ellipse here. So let's just bring another ellipse and put it inside of this guy. I'm also going to change this to ellipse. Let me put it as big. All right. So now I'm also going to use the same measurement, which is 24 by 24, and I'm going to align center inside this guy. So I'm going to change this to 4%. I'm going to change it to white first. I'm going to change it to 4% opacity. Let me just confirm. Okay, I'm going to change the pass through, not the color. Okay, so you can see that one needs to be very, very careful when you are doing stuff like this. All right, so we have this guy here. So now the next thing I also want to do is to make sure that I change this I change that big circle, right? I apply an effect, layer blur, and the layer blur, let me confirm, the layer blur of 24. Yeah, of 24. All right, so as you can see, the layer blur of 24, and we have this guy here, so you can see. Okay, the next thing I also want to do is okay, the next thing I want to do is to now duplicate this guy. Now we now need to select everything here and change the pass through to 0. Right? We select everything inside there and change the pass through to 0. So you can see. So now what I'm just going to do here is I'm going to name this outside. I'm going to name this outside also. And the reason why I'm naming it outside is because we have, one of the ellipse outside. So now the other one, the other thing we want to do now is this guy. So the one inside. So I'm just going to duplicate this one, and I'm going to like rearrange, make everything inside just the same way. So let me bring this guy in, let me okay, I'll make sure, let me just take this backward. Let me also take it backward here, and also inside here, so that it doesn't obstruct my movement when I'm adjusting this. So what I want to do is, like I said, I want to make sure I'm using the same setting as this, right? Let me just, okay, let me just select this, bring it a little bit downwards here, this guy here, this guy here. I want to duplicate another one. What else? Then I want to move this here, just all right. So you can, when you're doing yours, you can, however, place it anywhere you want, right? Okay, so we have this guy here. So the big circle, I want to confirm. Okay, for the big circle, we change the pass through to 10, right? As you can see here. So now we also need to duplicate this guy, right? So once we duplicate this guy, another thing we want to do is what? Select all of the ellipse and the big ellipse here and change the pass through to 0, right? So another thing we want to do is we name it to inside, and this other guy too, we name it to what? Inside. Okay, so as you can see, we have this guy. So I just want to like adjust everything together. Okay, let me bring them forward. Okay, so now what I now want to do is I want to group everything together and create as component sets. You can see, so I'm going to, rename this to glitters, right? As you can see here. So what I'm going to do is, because we already have this and I don't want to delete this, I'm using it as our model. So I'm going to name this as glitters new, right? So we know that this is the new one we just, created. All right. So now the next thing we want to do is to now add our prototype. But before I do that, if you notice here, I added a few colors so that I can see this thing clearly, right? So let me just, do that. It's just so that you can see, um, everything here clearly. I'm going to change it to black. All right. So as you can see, all right. So now I want to add my prototype. So the prototype we are going to be using is while overing, and we are going to change this from one click to while overing. Then we are going to maintain, smart animate and change this to slow, and we change the time to 700 milliseconds, right? So we do the same thing for the inside. While overing, we slow and 700. All right, let me confirm this. All right, all right. So now we have this guy. So let's just quickly, test this, right? Let's see. Let's see what we've done. Let me just bring it in here. Uh, okay. Let's just test this quickly. Yeah, let me just bring it inside this guy, right? And let me duplicate to inside. Okay. Okay, so you can notice, if you notice this part, you can see that our naming convention is not properly done. So let me just quickly go back and name it correctly. So we just need to add state to this guy. So I'm going to change this from outside, or let me just change it here. So this one is going to be type, right? So I'm now going to add state to this. State is equal to default, and then I can change this to default also. Then I will change this to over. So now when you click on this guy, you can see that our naming convention is now accurate. So I want to change this to default, outside, inside default. All right. So now let me play this guy. So when I hover, I think I placed it around somewhere here. It should be around somewhere here. Just 1 minute. Okay. Let me duplicate as many as possible. So all right, let me move it very close to this button so that I can easily locate it. All right. Okay. Let's move forward. Okay. Let me check again. All right, let's move forward. Okay, so we've successfully created, our glitters, right? So the next thing we want to do is to create the moving line. That's the next thing we need to do. So we need to pay attention to this because there is a lot of details we need to pay attention to. So the first thing we need to do here is to bring in a rectangle, right? And let's make sure, let's just maintain like 132 by 40 for now. And the next thing we want to do is uh, we are going to delete this field, but let me just add the corner radius of 1000, right? So now we now need to delete this fill and add a stroke of 2px. It should be inside, and you change the color to white this way. So the stroke, you need to now change the fill, the color. You change to gradient, angular, and the next thing you want to do is you move this guy to the right. You move it to the right. Move it to the right, yeah, this way, and you want to adjust this guy here. You want to adjust this to the top. Just make sure you can create this oval shape this way, right? This way. Now the next thing you want to do is, you see this guy here, you want to give it like 50% opacity. You want to bring in another guy here and give it 0 opacity, and you want to bring in another guy here and make sure it's 0 opacity. Then you delete this last one, right? So you can see it has to give you something like this. You can still move this a little bit, depending on what how you want it to be from your hand, right? But I think, yeah, this is cool. This is what I want. All right, so now another thing we want to do again is we want to add another stroke. The same thing we did earlier, right? We want to do the same thing. So change this to 100, change this to white, F, 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 F. Now we want to change it from color to gradient to angular. The same thing we did earlier. Now move it to the right, right? Make sure this red line shows that, then is on a straight line. Then you make sure this is in form of an oval shape. Now you want to change this to 50. You also want to add a color here. Make sure it's 0% opacity also here. And the last one, you want to delete it. Great. So you can see. So now another thing you now need to do here is to add effects. Come to the effect and click on this plus sign and change to layer blur. Now in the layer blur, you want to use 6. Yeah, I think I use 6. And yeah, so what I want to do, let me just confirm. Let me confirm. Okay, yes, yeah, what I did is correct. So now I want to now rename this to shine. Let me rename this to shine. So I'm going to leave it as this, right? So the next thing I want to do is I want to also duplicate this guy, and I will rename this to shine max, right? I'll rename it to what? Shine max. So what I want to do is I just want to bring this forward, right? When you right click, just bring to the front, right? Yeah, I want to achieve this. All right, so now this shine max, what I want to do now is I will delete one of the angular stroke. As you can see, I just deleted one, and I'm going to change from 2 to 24, and I'm also going to change from inside to center. As you can see that this little change, like it changes the look, right? So now we have this guy. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is now I want to align both together. Yes, now they are aligned together. And also the next thing I want to do is I want to now add all those glitters. I want to add them inside here. So what I want to do is, even if you click here, you can see that you are going to find it out to know the end of this guy. So to make this easy, I'm going to just bring in my arrow. So one thing about Figma is Figma snap to grid, it's going to know when this ends. Then you bring another arrow to the edge here. I said arrow, another rule I mean, and you do vertical, you do it vertically also to the top and to the bottom. So when you click on this, you can see that yes, they are now, this is now in the middle. So the next thing we want to achieve is, you see these glitters here, just bring in one, just like copy one. Okay, just copy one of this and paste here. Now what we want to achieve is this. We want to make sure we spread the glitters at the left hand side here. We also want to make sure we spread the glitters at the right hand side here. So let me just keep duplicating inside and out of this line. Let me just keep duplicate. So just duplicate as much as possible inside and out. Just duplicate as much as possible. Okay. Okay. All right. So I also want to duplicate here. Okay. Okay, I'm coming. I don't know what's happening here. All right. So I think I can grab this. Okay, just keep duplicating. All right. So another thing is I want to duplicate to the right also. I want to start duplicating to the right hand side. Just keep duplicating. So you just need to take your time. It's going to take, like, this is going to take a lot of time to create. As small as it is, it requires a lot of time to create. Okay, just keep duplicating, right? Just keep duplicating until you have enough. Just scatter them around. Oh, and be careful, right? Be careful not to move that big guy. All right, so let me just spread this guy. Okay, so now another thing I want to do now is I want to make sure at least 4 of these guys here, I change the opacity to 80, right? So what I want to do now is I want to select all of these guys and move them forward, right? I've moved them forward using the keypad, the bracket keypad facing right, so that I can easily make these adjustments and all of that, right? Okay. Oh, be careful so you don't move that guy. Okay, so I think I like it this way. Let me just move them a little bit forward. Yeah. Okay, so I think I like it this way, right? Let's move on. All right, so I just want to select at random. Yeah, let me select this guy. Let me do this, and let me also do this guy. So I'm going to make it so I'm going to make it 80. Let me also add this one. All right, so now the next thing is I want to come over here too. I want to select a couple of these guys. Yeah, let me do 5 also, and I'll make it 80. So yes, so we have these guys. So another thing I want to do is I want to come back here and send these guys to the back, or let me send this to the front. Let me first send this to the front and send this to the front. Okay, all right. Okay, so now we have this guy. The next thing we want to do now is we want to highlight all of these guys. We want to highlight all of these guys. So this is what we're going to do. we are going to highlight everything, and what, and now we are now going to we're now going to max them together. Oh, that was a mistake. Okay, highlight everything and max. Oh, okay, there's a mistake here. All right, so let me just bring this to the front. 1 minute. All right, so like I said, highlight everything together. Aha, this is what we want to achieve. So you can see that the placing here can also determine how the result is going to show, right? So I had to like take them back, right? So I can be able to achieve, or bring them front, I mean, so that I can be able to, achieve this. So now we have this guy, right? So the next thing we now want to do is to add auto layout to this guy. So you can see I've added auto layout, and you can see that the shine marks and the shine component, they are not overlapping. So the first thing we want to do is go to the layer panel, click on this shine, add absolute position. Now you now want to go back to this shine, hold on to your shift key and click on the last component, which is going to be shine here. You can see, and apply absolute position to everything. But before you do that, quick one. Um, Before you do that, after you have added, you've turned this to absolute positioning, just make sure you align to the top and center, right? Make sure. Then you now select everything inside this marks, from the shine marks down. Hold your shift key and click on the last thing, which is shine. Then change them to absolute position, so you can see. Now we've done a lot. We're almost done with this set of components. So now the next thing we now want to do is, let's change this mask group to let's change it to moving lines first. Then we now need to now start to modify this auto layout. So the first thing we need to do is we add a corner radius. Let's start from corner radius of 1000, right? Another thing we now want to do is, let's add stroke. Let's make sure we change it to white, FFF into 6 places. And now we want to change the fill. We want to make sure is inside and is 1, right, as the thickness. We now want to change the color, the fill from color from solid to gradient, and we are also going to use angular. So now we are going to move this to the right, just the same way we did earlier. So make sure when you are moving, the red line is showing, so it signifies that you are on a straight line. So let's put it this way, and we are going to adjust this up to give it that oval, that oval shape. All right, just the same way we've done earlier. Okay, I think this is cool. Let me just slightly adjust this. Okay, yeah. So now let's change this to 50. Let's change this guy to 50. 50, okay. Let's delete this guy. Okay, this guy to 50. All right. So now let's add another color here. That will be 0. Let's add another one down here. Just the same way we did it earlier. That's 0. So you can see we have this guy. This is where we are going to. So if you look at this, let me just bring in this component out here. And when you place it, when you compare, you can see that we achieved the same thing. The only thing that will be that will be different here is just the placement of those glitters, those ellipses, right? So now we successfully achieved this guy. So the next thing we want to do is, let's now delete all of these lines. Their job are done. Their job are done. All right. So now the next thing we want to do is, let's rename this to right. And why we're renaming to right is if you look at this, you can see that everything is facing right. So we want to create, 4 different variants. The one facing right, facing down, facing left, and facing top. You can see just this way. So the next thing you want to do is just duplicate this guy. Rename it to bottom. Now, what we are doing is we want to make sure we are changing this, clockwise, right? This one will face down, then we duplicate. The other one will face left, then we duplicate, and the last one will be top. So now, what you just need to do is every place you use angular, you need to change it downwards. So I'm going to start from the auto layout, from the main auto layout. Just click on these settings and move this downwards. Make sure the red line is showing that you're straight, and just make sure this one is sort of like a circle. Just make sure it's a circle. Bring it up a bit. Okay. Yeah, I think this is good. Now you click on this. You now go into your left panel. Everywhere you've used the angular, we know that the shine marks and the shine, we use the angular. So let's start from the shine marks. Click on the angular. Also the same thing, just do the same thing that you did just now. Make sure it's circle, right? All right. Okay, so go to the shine, click on the shine, and do the same thing for these two guys. So at this point, be careful so that you don't click anywhere here, or else it's going to add a color, and you won't achieve the same result that you want. Just be careful that you're just adjusting this guy. Okay, so at this point, you can be fast. Make sure you are careful. You need to pay attention to the tiniest of the details, right? I hope that is correct. All right, so I think we're done. Okay, so you can see that this is now facing what? Is facing downwards. So the next thing we want to do is duplicate this guy, this bottom. Change the bottom, name it to left. Now what we want to do again is everywhere we use angular, change it to what? Change it facing left. Just the same way we did for the right, but now it's facing left. Okay, you can see, make sure this is oval. Remember that the right was oval, right? So just make sure you use the same setting for the right, but make sure it's facing left. Okay, then you can collapse this and open up this left, and let's do this guy also. The same thing that we just did. Make sure it's on a straight line, and make sure this is over. All right, and then let's go for the shine. Move this facing left, change this to oval. Also do the same for this second guy here, and move this over. All right, so we're done with the left. As you can see, it's the same as the right. Then the last one is top. You duplicate the left, change this to top, and then we want to do what? Change the angle, the stroke also. Yeah, move it to the top, just the same way we did for the bottom. Right, then we're going to make sure this is in a circular form, just the same way we did for the bottom. Right, okay, so we go inside, we collapse this left, open up this guy, we do the same settings. Okay, all right. Okay, then we locate the shine, the same thing, move to the, all right, make this circular. Then we do the same for the second angular gradient. So this requires a lot of time, so you just need to pay attention, no rushing, and you're going to achieve this. So now we have all of our guys here. So the next thing we now want to do is what we want to create as components. But before we do that, I want to I remember that we need to make sure that the shine marks and the shine, we've not set the constraints. So we need to set the constraint to left and right, top and bottom. So before you start creating the bottom left, I think you should do this first so that it's going to save you the stress of going back to change this one after the other, right? So I just remembered now, so let me just quickly do that. And the reason for this is we're going to see the reason why I'm changing this to left and right, because when you're using it in your button, depending on the text, right, this is just going to like it's just going to keep moving. It's going to act like feel, right? So that is the essence. Okay, we're done. Oh, let me confirm something here. Okay, make sure you're also doing the bottom to bottom and left. Oh, okay. So just take your time, be careful so you don't miss anything. All right. So now we've done that. The next thing I want to do is I want to make sure the spacing between these guys are okay, and I want to create them as component sets. Voila. So I'm going to now rename this to moving lines, and I'm going to put new at the back just the same way we named this guy, so that we can differentiate from this guy. So also I want to like add a few of black inside so I can get to see what I've done just the same way I did it here. All right. So now the next thing we want to do is to now add okay, let me change this to direction. So the next thing we want to do is to add what? Prototype. We want to add prototype. So now the prototype we're adding is simple. It's pretty much simple. We link the right to the bottom. We're using after delay, 1 milliseconds after delay. Then we are going to be using linear of 1400 milliseconds. So let me just, oh, okay, 1400. Let me just copy this. All right, so we're going to link this also here. After delay, 1 milliseconds, linear. One thing about Figma is it's retain your previous settings, so we don't need to adjust that. We link this here also, change this to 1 milliseconds, and then you now take this one to the first guy. So you create that loop, you do the same thing. So now we have this guy, right? We've successfully recreate this guy. So I can now delete these guys. They've done their work for us. This is the new set of guys that we just created. So now before we move forward, I want to test this. I want to see if what we did is we did the right thing, right? So let me just bring in a frame so that I can test it here, instead of going to the other side. So let me just change this to black, or 1212, a shade of black. All right, so let me just move this here. Let me center line. So it's loading. So while it's loading, the next thing we now want to do is to create this guy. Let me just duplicate this one here, and we'll start to create it one after the other. So it's to create this guy. So what we just need to create is we just need to create this first set, then we'll now duplicate and change the color, right? So I think this is still loading. I don't know why this is taking time. I guess my internet. Okay. Okay, so let's just keep, designing this while I fix my internet and this loads. All right. Okay. So now the next thing you want to do, let me add this. Let me just. Okay, I just want to add a stroke so I get to know this is a frame. Aha. So now the next thing we want to do is to create this button, right? So the first thing you need to do, obviously, is to bring in your text, right? Depending on the typeface you want to use. Um, Read more. So my typeface, I've already set it earlier. So now we have this here. So now you now need to bring in your icon, right? You can use any of your icon sets that you have. Bring in your icon. Um, so I have my icon here. So another thing I want to do is duplicate this icon, group this icon together. Yeah, like I like them together and add auto layout. I'm going to change this to icon, right? Icon. Now I'm going to change the space between them to -6. And another thing I want to do is group these two together with another, auto layout. And I'm going to name this container. So I'm fond of naming my my component, my frame, everything. So now, before we go forward, make sure inside this icon, like the two icons, select the two and apply absolute, positioning, right? We're going to be using it later. So now let's go back and, click on this container and add another auto layout. And I'm going to name this button. And I'm going to, add horizontal padding of 16 and top padding of 10 because I want to make sure, the height is 40. Okay, let's check if, okay, yes, it has load there. So now you can see, guys, you can see that this component that we just created, this is it. You can see that this, work perfectly the way we want it to work. So you can see. All right, so let's move forward. So we've successfully achieved that first, step. Also, we didn't get to test this earlier, so let me just bring this inside here so that we can also, test it and see if, what we did earlier, worked. Okay. Okay, so you can see, guys, you can see that it actually did work. All right, so let's move forward. I'm happy, I'm excited about this. Okay, so now we have our button. We've added, auto layout, right? Now the next thing we want to do is let's add corner radius of 80. Let's add fill of black 00000, right? So let me just bring this out so we get to see what I'm trying to, recreate here. Okay, so we want to just recreate this first guy here. All right. Okay. So now that I've brought this guy out here, I want to make sure, the space between is, let me just use 32. So anything I'm doing, right, I always make sure is in division of 4. Most of the time vertically, and if I have my chance to, horizontally, I make sure it's multiple of 4. But horizontally you can't actually, control that because, for example, look at this text. If I add another thing here, it might become, let me add, it might give you odd number, right? You can't, control that. But vertically, I make sure it's always divisible by 4. Okay, so let's proceed. So we want to achieve this guy. So the next thing we want to do now is, since we've created this button, we now want to, bring in an instance of this guy. Just duplicate one. And we want to bring in an instance of these glitters, both the inside and outside. Just duplicate them outside. So now what we want to do, so you need to be careful, right? Because you can see that, you can hardly see this guy. So you need to, be careful and all of that. So now what we want to do now is, I'm going to, duplicate a lot of these guys side by side. and I'm going to group them together. Okay, be careful, don't allow this joint. Okay, align together. Let me align. Then make sure space between is 0, of course. Now, what you now want to do is you want to group everything together and add auto layout. So let me quickly name this glitters and moving line. Those are the two components that are there. We add new also. Okay, so now you can see that when you do that, auto layouts is going to split everything. So what you now want to do is select all of these glitters. You can select, from the panel here, or you also select here, and you add absolute positioning. Then once you do that, you can see that now the auto layout, is on this guy. So you now want to align everything to the top, or just use 0. Yeah. So now another thing you want to do is you want to also duplicate all of those guys, right? And another thing I want to do is the first line I want to change for okay, the first one will be outside, the second one inside, first one outside, second one inside, first one outside, second one inside. Okay, now the second row is now going to be inside, outside, inside, outside. So let me just highlight them this way. I'll change to inside, I'll highlight this, and I'll change to outside. So you can see we have this guy, and yeah, okay, so we have this guy. So now I want to click on this, because when creating this you need to create each of the okay, so I want to make sure I add enough of this guy, right? I want to make sure I add enough of this guy. So I just want to make sure, in case the word we are going to be using is going to be a lot, let me just add enough of them. So when I move this, you can see, all right. So let me adjust this. Okay, so we have enough. So now we've created this guy. So the next thing we want to do is, now you click on this, on this auto layer that we have here. Wait, I want to confirm something. I hope we're not missing anything out here. Coming. I just want to confirm. Oh, I think, okay, I just noticed. So I didn't, duplicate this well. They moved outside. Oh, so you need to be careful. You need to be careful so it doesn't spill outside. Okay. Yeah, so when I move, so you need to be careful. So if you want to move it, just make sure you highlight it, right? So that you can, okay, easily move it. So now, once you highlight it, you can copy or you can cut, and you paste it inside, the button you've created this way, right? So now the next thing you want to do, you now want to turn this to absolute position. Then you want to, align, to the left. You want to make sure you are maintaining the same spacing, right? You also want to make sure it's left and right, top and bottom. You also want to make sure the moving line inside is fill, right? So you can see this way. So whenever I adjust this guy, you can see it's going to move. Okay, so now another thing you need to do is this glitters, you now need to send it to the back, right? So you can be able to edit these guys. So now whenever you move this button, so let me over, you can see that it's moving together, right? So now the next thing we want to do now is you can see we've created this guy, we've created a fill, right? So the next thing we want to do now is this. We want to I'm coming. come in, I want to confirm something here. Okay. I just want to confirm. I want to confirm something here. Okay. Okay, that's perfect. Okay. So 1 minute, quick one. Just quick one. I just want to confirm something. Okay, so there's something that we didn't, you know, that I skipped here. So if you notice, the glitters I placed on the right hand side here, I'm supposed to change the constraint to right. Why the glitters here, they're going to be left. So, I noticed that because when you look at this, you can see these glitters, you can see the way, when you move this guy, you can see that they are moving together, right? But this, you can see, is not on the edge. So what I just need to do is go to my component here. Now, it's going to be a lot of work. Just make sure when you are creating at first, right? Make sure you set the constraint here to right? Now, everything here, you need to make sure, okay, I think from here, everything here is on the right. Okay, so just make sure if you can try, right? So I made a mistake. That mistake shouldn't happen, but I can, just manually, just select them here. But this is a lot of work. So this is a lot of work. So this is a mistake I should have avoided. But stuff like this, there's a lot of things you need to do, and sometimes you can skip so many things. All right, so let me just see the one I can write. Okay, right. So like I said, when you are placing this to the right, make sure you are able, okay, make sure you don't miss this. So these are the little tiniest details that once you miss, you might not achieve what you need to achieve 100%. So let me just assess them from the right panel here, and yeah, it's a lot of work, but I just need to, since I didn't do what I'm supposed to do earlier, so this is the price I need to pay. Okay, so we also need to do for the others. For I'm coming. Okay, let me just confirm. Okay, so we also need to do for this guy and this other guy, right? But let me just come here and see. So you can see what I'm talking about. You can see that the moment I change them to right, you can see they are now on this edge. They are now at the edge, right? The way I want them to be. Okay, so let's just continue, right? Then, maybe after we are done creating this, I can now go back to adjust the glitters. So for this first guy, you can see we have two icons here, the one on the left, the one on the right. So for the first instance, for the first variant, which is this that we copied out, this guy here, we change the password to 0. So once you change to 0, you can see that you successfully created this guy. So now let's take this guy out here. No, okay, there's one thing before we take it out. We need to now add, when you click on this guy, you can see you need to add a stroke. So now when I over on this, I come here and I add a stroke. I change this to white, and I change this to linear, right? Linear. So now let me come here and look at the settings I did. So the first one 80, this other one is 40 and 16. Okay, so now you over. So now don't just click on this because you'll be clicking inside, just to be on the safer side. Just over on everything. Like, highlight everything. So now come to the linear, change this to 80 opacity, change this one facing down to 40. Now the overall inside this box, change it to 16. Then we have successfully, created this guy. So now this guy can go. Let's bring this up. Like I said, highlight everything, right? So now the next one we want to create is this second guy. You can see we want to create the second guy. So what we need to do is duplicate the first one that you've created here. Oh, like I said, highlight everything. Let me space this here. Highlight everything when you want to like copy or when you want to select. Now, we want to achieve this guy, right? So what we need to do is this. Let's start from the icon. Now, this one that you turned to 0 earlier, change it to 100 back. Now, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we move these two guys. Remember that these two guys are absolute positioning. We want to make sure we move these two guys to the right so that they can align together with this. Right, so let me just bring this to the side so it doesn't obstruct. Let me just place this. Let me place these guys together here. So you need to pay attention, guys. You need to pay a lot of attention. So let me bring this. So now what we want to do is we want to make sure, let me bring in a ruler. I think that will be better. So we want to make sure that yes, it aligns with this guy here and it's here. So now what we want to do now is we want to make sure this first guy here, we select the two and we move them. We move them so that when you select this guy can overlap on this line, right? So now what you want to do is select the two and just manually shift it. So you can see, when you click here, you can see that it's overlapping. That is what we want to achieve. Now, this guy, just change this color to 20 opacity. You can see 20 opacity. Pass through, not the color, pass through, because they are different things. Yeah, pass through to 20. So now you successfully achieve that. So now the next thing you want to do is let's start from the from the fill, right? So I want to use this color, right? Let me just copy the color code from here. So the first thing we want to do is over. So make sure you space these guys because of this star, right? When you over, you might as well, when you highlight, you might as well just highlight the previous one, the other one too. So now just highlight, right? So once you're done, change this fill, paste the color code, then change from fill to gradient, and from gradient change the linear to diamond, right? So now in this diamond, you change this to 60, I think. Wait, let me confirm before, okay, 80 20. Okay, 80 20. So now highlight, like I said, go to the diamond in the fill, 80, and this other one 20. Right, so now another thing you want to do is come to this opacity here, change it to 20%, right? So you also want to add another fill, move this downwards, change this to the green color, then change this to 8%. Then when you can see that we've successfully achieved this guy. You can see we've achieved this guy. Now the one last thing that we need to do is this stroke. We need to change the stroke to linear. So let me confirm 2060. Okay, so now highlight this guy. Make sure you're not copying the first one, or you're not highlighting the first one. So change this to 20. Make sure you change the color also to the green, right? Change the color and change it to 60. Then once you do this, you have successfully created this guy. Now we can take this out. Now the next thing we want to do is what? We want to do this third guy. Then let's bring this one also for guidance. Let's bring it down, and also let's highlight this one and duplicate. So now we want to achieve this. So the main thing that you need to change here is just these two guys and the stroke. But let's start with the stroke. So what I just did in the stroke, you can overlook it, right? I just change, this first one to 60 and this one to 20. It's just a little like a little details, right? You can overlook. It's not, compulsory. But let me, so like I said, make sure you don't put them together, or else you might just group. Because of this star here, that's why when you highlight it affect the others. So I'm just going to change the first one here 60 and this one here to 20. That was the only thing I did for the stroke. You can overlook that, right? It's just little adjustment that I did just to give it that feel. All right, so now what we now want to do for the second one is we want to move this guy, we want to move them back. We want to move them back to the way this guy is. So just shift it and make sure this guy is overlapping here, as you can see. Now this first one that you change to 100 20, make sure you change back to 100. Then this one on the left, change back to 0. Then we've successfully achieved this, right? That's you can now take this out. So the last one that we need to achieve is now this guy. So now let me bring this back. Now we need to also duplicate this guy. So the thing we need to do here is let me confirm. So just return, just come back here, that stroke again, just return it back to 2060, right? And like I said, you can overlook this. It's not as important as this icon. It's this icon that is very important, the placement. So now for this last guy, it's very easy. You don't need to adjust. Just click on this one with 0 opacity and change it back to 20, and voila, we have successfully created this. It's simple. The most difficult thing is getting this right and getting the second right. The other last two are easy. So now we can now delete this. So what we just did is we've successfully created, designed the button. The next thing is now prototype and duplicating and changing the color. So let me just, so we're almost done, guys. Okay, so now what we now need to do is okay, let's create this as component sets. So now once you create as component set, just expand this, because we'll be duplicating just the same way you see there. But the first thing we need to do is let's first set the prototype. Then when we duplicate, is we don't need to repeat all the stuff. And another thing we'll be doing is we'll be renaming the our components, so it won't be giving us this error. So the first thing you want to do here is it's simple. So let's bring in the prototype. Let me just confirm. Okay, 300 is out after delay. Okay, so now the first thing we want to do is this is going to be while overing, right? And we are using is out 300. Now this other one is going to now be after delay. After delay 1 milliseconds, and we still retain is out and we use 100 milliseconds. So this third guy is now going to be mouse leave. It's going to be what? Mouse leave 300 milliseconds. Then we are now going to return this guy to this first guy here, right? So yeah, let me just do that, so that keeps overlooping. Then when we duplicate, we'll now adjust this last guy to the other ones. So let me just change this one to after delay 1 milliseconds. Let me change this to 100. Okay, so now let's just test this quickly, right? Let's see if we've been able to achieve that. Now let me take this out. Before we even start to duplicate, let's see if what we did is actually, correct. Okay, so guys, so you can see, we successfully, achieved this guy. You can see we successfully achieved. So now the next thing we now want to do is what? We want to now make sure that what we want to achieve next is when we over and we leave. So you can see, okay. So I want to confirm something here. Okay, yeah, I think. Okay, yes, we successfully achieved that. So the next thing we want to achieve here is when we over and we leave and we over back, we want to make sure it's another color that shows, not the same green. So it's simple. So what we now need to do is just, highlight everything here, then duplicate, you know, duplicate again. Just duplicate as many color as you want. And the next thing we want to do is just to change color. It's as easy. Let me just come here and copy the color code here. So what you just need to do is, highlight everything here, right? Make sure you highlight everything here and come to this color selection. So anywhere you see green, anywhere you see, just click either in the gradient, just, keep changing the colors, right? Make sure you don't leave anyone unchanged. Make sure you keep changing. You will see that everything changes, right? You can see this is, super easy. So come to the second one, the same thing, highlight, come to this color selection, just change the color codes, until everything turn the same color you want it to be. We are almost done, guys. This is just the last phase. Yeah, so as small as this, the same thing here, copy the color code. So as small as this button is a little bit complex, to create. There are a lot of attention to details that you need to, pay attention to and make sure you don't overlook. All right. So now we successfully, change the color, as you can see. So now what you want to do is, come to the prototype. Now link this last guy. That after delay, link it to this first guy. Now link this last guy also. Link it to this first guy. Link this one also to this first guy. And this last guy, link it back. So if let's say you have multiple colors, I use 4 colors. Let's say you have 10. You keep on doing it until you link the last one to the first one so that I can create that loop, right? So now let's come back here. Let me play here, and let's see. So if you pay attention to this, you can see that this guy is moving. The reason is because of that. Is because of this component. The right panel here that I didn't change to right? So probably maybe when I'm done doing this, I'm going to change that so that we see everything correctly. Okay, let's just pay attention. So now you can see when you over, you can see, guys, you can see that it's changing. You can see, can you see? Can you see? The moment I over and I leave, can you see this guy too is changing? Can you see? Can you see? So, it's as easy as that. Is as easy as that. I want to quickly, just check something. Okay, is as easy as that. All right, so that just is basically. Let me just come back here and I can delete this, right? This. Thank you for the service. So now let me just come back here and let's see if I can still change those to right. So let me see if I can change them to right so that everything that we've done can show exactly this way we want it. So like I said, the mistake I did was not to change it, right? It was not to oh, okay. So I need to now change it manually. I need to now change it manually. So let me just do that so we can see the final results together, um, without any difference. So just make sure you know you don't make this mistake, right? Because it's going to cost you a lot of time, to adjust the same way I'm doing right now. Any little thing that you overlook, any little thing. So make sure you don't change the one on the left. Make sure it's only the one on the right. Anything you overlook can cause you not to achieve what you're supposed to achieve with this button. Like I said, just make sure that when you were placing this, you changed the positioning. Okay, we are almost done. We are done. I just want to make sure this is as perfect as it should. Okay. Okay. And another thing you can do is when you are naming this, right, you can name it left ellipse, right ellipse, so that when you even need to make correction, when you select all the right, like it's going to be easy for you to locate which one is which, right? So okay, I'm almost done. Okay, I'm almost done. All right, and let's do the last one. Okay, ASAP. ASAP. Then we're going to see the beauty we just created together the way it should be. You can see what I'm doing. I'm trying to over to see where it is, then I can just make the changes together. When you know how to maneuver these two, life is going to be easy for you. All right, so I'm done. So let me come back here and play this guy. So let's just allow it to let's allow it to to move normally. All right, so now, so when I over on it, you can see the over effect, right? Let me go out. Then when I go in again, you can see the glitters. When I go in again, you can see it's red. Then when I go in again, you know, so this is how you know you create a shining moving button with glitters, multicolor over effects, and micro interactions. So after this video, I've already published the Figma file for you to be able to recreate this yourself. So feel free to go to figma.com/at AJ and your BC to duplicate the file and recreate yours. I'll be looking forward to watch every one of you guys we create. You know, thank you for following along, and until next time, do have fun and stay fab. Bye, guys.